official NRL Fantasy Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the official NRL Fantasy Podcast. I'm biiiig with Luke Seifleet. Just the two of us today.
Just the two of us.
Our condolences to our regular co-host Andrew Molinaroli on the passing of his father. He's not with us this week, but hopefully we'll be back on deck next week. And we've got a lot to talk about because these team lists, I call it chaos.
Chaos?
That's what I call.
I think it's the apocalypse, mate. I think.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Even more.
I think by Saturday night, I think most people. I'll quote a certain fan of the show, Christopher Cook. Delete app, I believe he said.
Oh, don't ever do that, guys. It's the one thing we cannot endorse on this show.
I think people were very upset with the amount of luck they were getting in regards, because a lot of it's just bad luck, right? Like, you know.
Well, you and I both brought Max King
again, and he wasn't in anyone's. I think
not on Friday.
I think I'd be pretty honest with the questions. If people actually said how many people expected Max King to be an Origin team, I reckon maybe 1 out of 100.
Probably you thought May was ahead of him.
Yep.
And then when that news came out, you thought Safidi was ahead of him.
Yep.
And when he went down, you thought Jakey Trbojevic was ahead of him. And then obviously when he went down.
Well, the series of events, right? Even that game just in particular.
Oh.
Jazz gets the HIA.
What about those that brought
Jazz in? We were like, oh, this is the worst thing ever.
My phone was blowing up when he was on the HIA. He came back.
Comes back on, and then poor old Jake, thoughts are with him, but.
Yeah.
He goes off, and then Jazz plays the rest of the game.
At lock.
At
where
lock.
He gets the big PPM.
These are the things that swing your rank, so.
We've had some people getting in early on these questions.
Which is good. We need a lot of questions.
We've only got 5 games, so why don't we answer a few first before we get to some previews?
Yep.
And NT's online. Bulldogs who will get Kings minutes. I think it'll be a straight swap because Josh Curran's back this week. So I think Curran being back pretty much gives them a swap. I actually think Curran could be a buy. He was out on suspension, so it's not like he's coming back from some sort of injury where he's going to ease into it. Okay. He's going to get huge minutes.
Yeah.
It just depends if you need a mid.
How about Bailey Hayward?
Yeah, I don't know if he's that fantasy relevant, but yeah, I'd be leaning towards Curran personally. I mean, let's have a look at what the predictor says for that game. Which one will score higher? They're saying Hayward only 31.
Okay. Well, there you go.
55 minutes.
Yep.
And Curran 50 in 60 minutes.
Okay.
So, Kayla also wants to know for a cheapie mid. I still think Jazz would be considered cheap.
Again, given current circumstance now, Kayla, I think you're probably going to have to look at. Again, I put my hand up. I thought it was a mistake given Croker, Simpkin, and now Lodge was back this week. But because of what's happened, it's created a path for him to play a lot because, again, just Kayla, wait and see, and we'll see what the Manly side say in regards to how long he's going to be out for, because I believe that was his second in about a month. So
45k projected price rise for Tavanga this week, and that's if he gets 50. He could even outdo that. So I just think you've got to get Tavanga in, you've got to find a way to get him in and worry about what happens next week, the week after later, because the upside's just too high.
Yeah.
And then Melissa also wants to know about Manly players because she's thinking Turbo, 434k, break even of 63, and then also wants to know a captaincy choice, Katoa or Aaron Clark.
Second part of that question for me, Aaron Clark. I think Aaron Clark's deserved the nomination this week.
Warriors team too. No Barnett, no Fisher Harris. So Clark could play 80.
Yeah, 100%.
80 at lock.
I love it. I think Aaron Clark's a real. Basically him. I think it's basically between him and Tarpane this week.
The only other guy I would say, but I wouldn't suggest make him captain, but I think Zach Hosking is always due for a 90 when he plays right edge. Because if Fogarty gets going, and Fogarty was quiet like on the weekend just gone. If he gets going and Hosking gets some attacking stats.
Again, speaking of Origin, they've been very fortunate because. Again, I thought for sure Corey Horsburgh was going to make Origin. Now he's not. The people that held him are laughing. That makes their team a lot stronger.
Yeah, and Turbo, do we need to see a couple of good games out of him, not just one? Everyone
knows where I stand on Turbo. I still think he's one of my faves. But I think he's purely out there at the moment trying to A, get his legs back, and B, I think him just purely being out there is creating space for others.
Yeah.
You saw that on the weekend with Garrick.
Yeah.
Garrick had that
like
ball.
basketball, you know, sometimes with 5 you sort of have one creating the decoy.
Well, it's like it's the Steph Curry effect, right?
Yeah.
He's creating the gravity for everyone else.
Yeah.
So that's why Garrick got a good score again.
Yeah. I want to see a couple of games from Turbo before.
Yep, I agree.
Once he gets 250s back to back, I think he's a good buy.
Like the same mindset we had with Ponga.
Yeah, same
Remember?
deal.
Yeah.
And Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
Which he never quite got there,
but he got to a price point where you're like, okay, it's worth a go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Hubba Bubba just wants to know about captaincy as well. So
mate.
Teddy would be a little bit more risky, just because we know wing fullbacks are up and down traditionally. Tapane's very solid. The only danger with Horse not being named in Origin is that I don't know if Tapane gets a massive uptick in minutes. He gets a tiny bit. The middle in general are getting a tiny bit more because the edges, Nicholson and Young, obviously Nicholson injured, Young on Origin duties. That will open up. I reckon Smithies will move, or even Horse could move to an edge.
Shout out Tom Leake's favourite player, Morgan Smithies. He had an amazing game.
He could play a bit of edge. I mean, you've got Noah Martin, who's an edge, or plays both edge and middle, so he could come on for Sasangi. I can't see Sasangi necessarily.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he can play 80.
No. Okay, well, yeah. Well, first of all, that's great you've got 3 options like that. I think that's that's incredible. You're in a great spot. It really depends for me which way do you want to play the risk play and you want to go for the high ceiling. I'd probably go in with a lower reward, like, you know what I mean. Like if it goes backfires.
Roosters pack is very light because Collins is playing Origin, Angus Crichton's playing Origin, Spencer Lenny's playing Origin, and Nufo White's injured.
Well, again, Teddy's going to have to run 20 plus runs.
But that could work in AFB's favour.
That's right. But again, the only thing they've all got their pros and cons, like Paulie said with Tapane. The minutes probably is not going to change. The AFB thing you got to think about with the cons with that is his injury? Is he still being managed?
He didn't. He looked much better against the Storm, but he had to give that.
Yeah. Look at the week before. He got a 55 with a try.
Yeah.
And then he
gets
backs it up. Like you wonder if you're going. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
it's tough.
They're all
Tapane seems safer.
Yeah, I agree.
Jack Falconer just wants to know if New South Wales is going to win. I feel like that. Yeah, I'm not going.
I'm not going to put my old historian hat on. But the problem with these Origin series is all the time is New South Wales always look better on paper, minus the dynasty Queensland years. Yeah. That's when the Queensland are always at their most dangerous.
This is back to traditional 80s, 90s, early 2000s Origin.
It's the 30 years. It's the 30 years since what? 1995.
And what happened then? 3-0.
Yeah. So
not to New South Wales. And did you, obviously Max King, we mentioned at the start of the show, was a bit of a surprise for Origin and Corey not being named.
Yeah.
Rob Toyer, I guess we need to talk about. Are people now worried? Like Toyer, King, they could be sells because they both have got. Roosters have around 14 bye. Dogs have around 13 bye. So not only do you miss them this week when you were hoping they'd play for you, you're going to lose them again.
Yeah.
And then if they get, both of them though. Where do you sit on them getting selected in round 15?
Well, it really depends on that. It really depends on that first game.
The first game. So I guess that was a leading question. I'm saying there is a world out there where you could hold both King and Toyer, watch the Origin game,
especially with the carnage.
And reassess.
Especially with the carnage that's gone on the weekend. And again, I'm going to guess I think most people would have anywhere from 16 to 18 trades left on the generous side.
Yeah.
If you've got anything less than that, you're going to have to really think hard.
Well, I got 13.
Well, yeah.
So Max King as a sell is a danger.
But I think you'd be in a very, that's a very high, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so someone like me needs to really
aggressive.
Consider to be let's just pause.
Yeah.
Max King, I've already done it with Greg Marju. He's supposed to be now coming back very soon. And just maybe you get a bit lucky where Laurie says, actually, I'll change my team for round 15 and Max is back playing for the Bulldogs. But if you've got 16 or more trades, King not playing this week and next week, potentially not round 15 either, I feel like that makes him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I can't push back on any of that because again the Couchman thing really threw people's plans out the world. We had that buy plan. We had that buy plan in video.
He might come back though by round 14.
That's right.
Then you can grab him because that dual position's the other problem.
That's why I brought it up.
Edges. Some weeks, if you look at your buy plan, you go, oh no, I'm really short on edges. A lot of my edges are on buy, and then the next week it'll be the mids are on the buy or they're playing Origin. And then you're short there. So if you pick up next week Colin Matangi and the week after Toby Couchman, if he's back, wow, changes everything.
Well, I brought up Keane on the show last Tuesday. I think,
if they weren't on buy in round 12, we would have all picked him up instead of King. And it's like, oh, Saifidi for some. Like,
woulda, coulda, shoulda, Paulie.
I mean, we talk about buy planning, and we'll say it again next year. But in this case, it would have been better not to buy.
It's just gone out the door. Makes us look great, doesn't it?
Would have been better to go Keon because he was the better player. Let's do the preview, shall we? And we're starting with the Bulldogs v the Dolphins. Thursday night footy, a lot of changes due to Origin. The Bulldogs do get Josh Curran back. He'll have to really substitute a lot of those minutes that's lost by Max King being gone. Kurt Mann, of course, is gone as well, so Bailey Hayward steps in for him. One guy that remains, though, is Matt Burton. Would you consider him? Not yet.
Not yet. Not with the amount of the carnage at the moment.
It's a big pod play, right?
Yeah.
If you need
the one you said before, and then when we were talking about our questions, I like that one better.
Yeah.
I like the Curran one because I think Curran's probably going to have to play 60 minutes.
And if you wanted a half, would you go the Dolphins, Isaiah Gata?
Oh well, shout out Ross Lathorne. He went in last week, and I mean, even though they performed, poorly. I mean, gee, he still put out. You know what he's doing? He's doing the Jamie Humphries now.
Yeah.
He's making a lot of tackles, kicking. Like, mate,
I wish I'd got him.
Playing insane.
Man.
Yep.
Other than Katoa, Herbie Farmworth would be a good pickup if you needed an outside back from the Dolphins.
Yep.
It just depends how you like to play fantasy.
He's the premium centre.
Yeah. And if you can just lock that one away, that's handy later.
I would have suggested Herbie, but I think given what we're going to talk about in the next couple of games, the Newcastle News, you probably are safe now. But
before we move on to the next game, let's just talk Jacob Kiraz, because what Phil Gould put out was 4 to 6 weeks. So can we trust that? Is there any chance he came back early? He is a very resilient player. Or do you just think you've got to go off the advice?
Well, you have to trust the general manager.
It's so tricky, right? Because 4 weeks, and considering you have to play 13, you almost consider with trades at a premium holding him because he's such a good player and he's a guy you want in your home run. The problem is, if it ends up being 6 weeks, it's a nightmare scenario.
Well, my rule of thumb with this, right, I think I talked about this on the weekend, but I think my rule of thumb is if the injury wasn't a knee or a calf,
right,
I'm probably going to lean to what you said and go, I'm going to ride it out. But the very fact that they've said 4 to 6 weeks with a calf.
So you're worried even if he comes back early, he's not 100%. He doesn't put up the fantasy.
We got all these questions about Turbo. Like it's the same thing. Like it's very.
And you can't mid-round train him because the Bulldogs game's
back to what you said just before, right? About Max King. I'd be more comfortable holding someone that's playing Origin that's not injured.
Right. That's right. Missing 2 games, but then he's back, fully fit, rested. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Let's talk Parramatta versus Manly. Well, it's one of those old-timer great traditional clashes, isn't it? And it's a shame in a way that Origin takes away a couple of the big stars, of 2 halves, mainly Moses and DCE, but obviously Lomax is in the side as well. And then Jakey, we mentioned, not being able to play due to the HIA. Still should get a pretty good encounter. Parramatta, they're getting better and better, right? They were good on Friday. Kitione Kautogo.
He's back.
Wow.
Mr. Reliable now. You can actually rely on him to play. Again, I've been looping him for about 3 or 4 weeks now. Well, again, I don't have to this week.
Good week to have him just playing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Isaiah Iongi hasn't quite kicked on as we hoped, and now he doesn't have Moses.
Well, the downside this week is his run of form, Kautoga and obviously Iongi as well, coincided with Moses coming back.
Yeah.
Now he's off. Do we get a revert back to what it was before? Maybe, but hopefully they can carry some confidence into it and just get us if we'd probably be happy with a 40, 45.
And that bench, I'm worried about Riley Smith's minutes. I think he might come down a bit, and Hopgood, most people have moved on from him now, but I think Hopgood could play some more dummy half.
Yeah.
So unless one of these guys comes in outside the 17.
The old Godfather, look what they did to my boy. They massacred my boy. I don't know what's happened to Hopgood. He's not playing enough.
Be playing Kartoga if you have to, Riley Smith, but Tavanga and Clark are so much better options than Smith at hooker, and you only play one hooker.
You said it best, Paulie.
And then Manly, well, we had a question about Turbo earlier in the show, and he could be a buy. I think a lot of people were even hoping this week, but that game, it just rubs him out for another 2-3 weeks now. You've really got to keep watching. Got a good buy, draw Manly. So Ruben Garrick, if you don't own him, some people wouldn't have started with him, and then he had so many good games it would have been hard to jump on. But lately he's dipped. Now we've got the good score, 57. Great time.
And also, it's like you said with Carraz, right? Just a good fantasy player to have down the home stretch, dual position, but also to. Manly are one of the only teams of Origin that's kind of done him a favour. Outside of Jerry Evans, Hamole's not made the team,
that's right.
and Tom hasn't made the team.
Right.
So, and what have you always said with Garrick with Tom?
Yeah, he plays better when
plays better.
On the field.
It's a no-brainer for me.
Is Jazz Tavanga first trade in this week just because he's going to be playing lock?
I think a lot of our questions will be that, I think, again, given the carnage of what happened with all our mids and that, I think a lot of people will be going to be short of mid this week. I think
it's too easy.
It's too easy. It's almost too obvious. It's almost like it's almost a trap, but it's not. It's just too easy.
The only danger would be that Manly do have a strong bench and guys coming back from injury. Out the Alloways, obviously Croker's back this week.
Again, it's going to depend, and I think given what's happened on the weekend, it really depends on how they treat the Jake thing going forward. I know that's what we want to talk about, but again, I think. I would be shocked if he's playing Broncos.
Yeah, they'll probably be like the Roosters, a couple of times with guys like Luke Keary back in the day. Just take it slow.
Look at our track record, right? People that get repeated HIA, they get a couple of weeks off.
And if you're Aaron Clark, which surely now everyone is, round 15 and 18 when he's on bye, Manly play.
Yep.
So your hooker, when you only have to play one, 15, and then 16 and 19 when Clark's back. It's Manly on bye, so you just swap them.
This is important. This is an important period for them too, but also fantasy-wise, like you said, if this week, say for example, touch wood, Turbo gets a 55-60.
Yeah.
You go okay.
Now we've got one on
because their draw is very favourable.
Very favourable.
So,
let's talk to your questions again, shall we? Get a couple in before we keep going on with previews, and I suppose that. Notorious Tash is on the money, what we've been saying. So Tom Turbo, we're saying wait at least 1 week, maybe 2. We would love to see a 50 or odd this week from Tom and then back it up with another score.
That's right.
And then bring him in for round 14 when you've got to play 17 again.
I just think it'd be irresponsible to come, especially when you got a 4 with a sin bin against the Cowboys.
It was just
I think it'd be very responsible to come on here and go, everyone get him. Like you've got to, doesn't matter what the player is, you've got to see some kind of.
Yeah, it's just the risk at the moment is still high.
Especially with trades, everyone's just doing trades like candy at the moment, you know what I mean? So
Jazz, on the other hand, I think we did say caution and it could have gone the other way.
Yeah, that's right.
He was the one that went off with the hate.
But it hasn't.
Yeah, so
it's gone his way. And you've got
credit to those.
And you've got 2-3 games of data now where he's played lock.
Yeah, definitely.
Where he's gotten a good score.
He's going to be fine. And with Croker back, he's not moving.
No. That's Simpkin.
But the issue would be now with guys like Alloway back, if Jakey comes back earlier than expected, would Jazz go to like a 30-minute bench roll where it's going to be tricky? We don't think so. And we can always pivot down the road.
Yep.
Sav Gunn just wants to know Curran or Jack Williams. That's a great question.
Well, again, pull behind the curtain a little bit. Friend of the show, Brad Preston.
I tried to tell him to hold him.
If you could have seen a more angry person watching that Parramatta game, he traded Jack Williams out and the bloke turned into Sonny Bill Williams.
I said, keep him 1 more week. Just keep him until after round 12. You just never know.
Very impressive.
But that was more buy planning from my point of view. I wasn't thinking he'd run out and score that.
He was going nuts.
Look, I like Jack Williams, I just like him as a player. The issue I've got with getting him now, I feel like you've kind of missed your window because the Eels are obviously playing this week, but then their buys are in round 15 and 18. So I don't think you're going to be that happy to be holding Jack Williams in the not too distant future while you've got your origin mids also.
I think Curran's got the pedigree too, right?
Curran's got a great buy schedule in
but he's got the pedigree as well. Like he's a reliable fantasy player.
He usually does quite well. They're both dual positions, so they're both handy from that perspective. But after the round, next week's bye, round 13, he's back playing 14 and 15.
I like it.
So just get him in.
Yep.
King Blood, good to see you, King Blood. Dylan Egan and Kiraz to Hosking and Teddy. Well, I love Hosking this week. I liked him last week, but I love him way more this week.
Okay.
I just think the matchup suits against the Warriors. If you have a look at, surely where the Raiders are going to attack, they're going to be attacking on the fringes because it's the pack that's light.
Yep.
You know, guys like, all due respect to Halasima, he's having a great year, but he's a rookie.
Yeah, well,
and Hosking running at Halasima, I like those odds.
Yeah, well, I got Hosking last week for Nicholson.
I think he's a great trade this week. If I hope you're right. I didn't have the fires to put out because I've got two edges. I can't make luxury trades.
Yeah, that's right.
But Hosking would have been my trade.
He would be a very big luxury trade.
And Teddy's good because he didn't get picked for Origin.
Yeah, and also too, I think it's pretty definitive now. Like, I mean, again, the only worry is what Paulie said in the preview. That pack's very light now, so you're going to take it. It's going to be a risk.
Him and Nawanga Nitawaze, you probably have to take 5 or 10 off what you're hoping they'll score.
Yep.
Just be prepared because I don't know in what position they're getting attacking ball compared to their normal.
Yep.
Keg, Herbie to go bananas, 75 from putting the C on him.
Well, Keg,
Keg's not. It's not Ross Lapthorne in disguise.
Keg, I can't. I'm not going to take the mickey out of you because you could be right, mate.
I got him at 54.
No, I think that's generous.
I think because normally the Bulldogs are very difficult to defend against, and who would he normally go up against?
Yeah,
Stephen Crichton. I say best defensive centre in the game. He's not there.
The Keg might be onto something.
So he's going to be coming up against. It says Blake Taff. I don't believe it.
No.
You can't buy it. So the two options that the Bulldogs have is either they swap Taff and Tracy. Tracy's played centre plenty when he was at the Sharks, or dare I say, Dogs fans won't like this. Drew Hutchison is 18th man. He played a bit of centre for the Roosters back in the day. He might be a safer defensive option, and Taff could come off the bench.
That could be the call of the show. That. We might need a big Herbie graphic there next week.
This is
for the
days. You remember way back years ago when you could do a VC?
Yeah.
You could look because they're game one. This would be the
100%.
If that loophole still existed, we'd be talking about that for 5 minutes.
That didn't even come across. I didn't even think of that. That's actually
the Crichton out changes.
Yeah, it's a good shout.
Yeah. Panthers are taking on the Knights in the big game on Saturday, 5:30, and obviously Penrith are once again hit hard with players on Origin duty, but their alternates have had a lot more experience this year, dare I say.
Yeah. This is a lot of inexperience in both these teams here.
So Tom Jenkins, I don't think anyone held him, but he's back starting. So if you did, you're laughing there.
You're laughing.
And then you're looking at guys like, would you bring in someone that's really cheap because they're playing like Patea? Although Patea's gone well, I couldn't recommend it. But if you're trying to just make something happen, I would love Schneider if he was 250, but he's 350, so that you can't go that.
You said it best before, Paulie. You can't be doing trades like that now. It's too much.
Guys like Liam Henry and Lindsay Smith could get really good scores this week.
Yeah,
really good scores. And then you're looking over to the Newcastle Knights, and I think a lot of owners are rejoicing at that team list because not only is Fletcher Sharp and Dylan Lucas playing, well, Sharp's at fullback and Lucas is in the back row.
Yeah, where he should be.
So the upside for both those guys, because for me, what I noticed in the game on Friday is not having Cogger at half really meant Ponga had to do a lot more. and they actually ran into each other at one stage.
100%.
They were figuratively running into each other all night.
They're so clunky, Paulie.
And Ponga, when Cogger's there, stays more to the right-hand side. But with Gamble there, he tried to inject more and I'd been saying he's got to get in on the left-hand side, but that was when you had Best and Margie. They were both out. And the one guy that was there was Sharp, and he was just getting in the way.
I think depending on how Lucas is feeling, I think their back rows will be used quite a lot in this game.
You know what I've got to admit is that obviously Pierce Paul last year had a really good year. Fantasy-wise, he was a gun. I thought this year, well, he's priced now. Like, we saw what we saw, but he's gone to another level, and credit to those people that jumped on, because he got 58 with a Sydney in that game, and that was a game where they barely scored. They barely fired a shot.
I looked up and I was like, gee, what's Sky people? And he's like, mate, he's on 45 with 25 to go.
When he got Sydney,
I said, what's going on?
I was like, I don't think they've minused it yet, but they had.
Could be.
So credit, I think Cookie's got him. I think a few other.
He could be one of your new favourite players, I reckon.
Well, I don't have him though.
Yeah, I know.
So maybe I've got to find a way. But the Knights' bye schedule's good now, not so good later. So you're probably not jumping on anymore on Newcastle players. You're just owning it. The ones you own. You're just hoping that they keep going well.
I can't pick that game at all.
Leo Thompson back helps.
Yeah. Well, again, a lot of people probably saying questions about Leo too.
Well, Jacob out, they might do a straight swap because there's quite a lot of Jacobs I feed out there.
Yours truly.
But I'd go Pierce Paul if you can make it work, because I think he's the better shout between him and Leo. Let's talk Roosters v the Sharks, and well, the Roosters just, I hate to use the word decimated because Origin's a great time of year, but that forward pack is a shadow of its normal self. Siwa Wong owners, well, he's going to have to do plenty. So he could see a massive uptick. I was so keen on Zach Docker-Clay going into this bye schedule, but Benaya Melu on the bench
scared you off now.
Is pretty much suggested he could only go to about, 55 minutes. Even Toby Rodwell in the extendeds, like he could come in. Like I'm a bit worried now as a Savala owner. What if Toby Rodwell takes over?
I don't think so. I think it's just
Savala's been a bit down.
It's purely the numbers, I think.
Yeah, okay.
They've got too many guys out.
Nwanga Nitawaze was outstanding, both just regular on-field and for fantasy.
Yep.
And those updates, every time I looked, he's been updated again. Oh, look, and even on Monday, I think he was getting more points. I guess that try was just that good.
You brought up Karaz before, very similar. He's just always in the game. Always in the game.
Karaz to Nwanga Nitawaze, that's what I.
And you save the money too.
Dual position as well, so it just makes too much sense.
Yep, love it.
And Tedesco we mentioned earlier.
Shout out to Nat Butcher's back too.
And Nat Butcher back.
So he'll come in and play big minutes.
Yeah. So we'll be watching some of these guys carefully. They have another bye in round 14 when everyone else is playing. So Roosters pickups for round 15 could be interesting as well if you're not making any moves for them now.
Yep.
The Sharks. Remember I messaged you just before the game?
Yeah, tell them.
I think I'm going to do a mid-round trade for Iro, and then I backed out. There's been too many injuries. I'll just leave.
And I watched about 55 minutes of the game, and I said, Paulie must be jumping up and down.
Yeah,
I messaged you and I said, how's the Hero going? And you go,
I backed out.
He said something else, but I said I won't be on the show. He said, I backed out. And
no guts, no glory. Look, it was tough, and just positional as well for that 13, and not being able to really examine what does this mean for next week. When at the time I thought maybe is Lucas going to play? Is he going to be out? Is Karaz going to play? Is he going to be out? And you're thinking I might be okay for centres, but be really in trouble at edge, for example, because of not being able to get Hosking or half, and
Well, it was a good mate. As I said.
Hero was the guy.
The data speaks for itself. He just keeps scoring.
I still think he's a buy. They have a buy next week, so they miss round 13, or he misses round 13. So you just got to make sure, like Purdue, we're not going to talk about the Cowboys today because they don't play, but Purdue at half, or in the halves, was not as successful as we hoped. So relying on him next week might not be the best idea.
Well, you're right. I'm going to give him one more. I think next week is again. I'm not going to talk about now, but I think it's a very, very big game.
If you're deciding between Nwanga and
Tawase
Hero, right, this week, Nwanga and Tawase can be your centre next week as well, with a Lucas, rather than having to rely on Purdue.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about that is that, I think I said it to you on the weekend, I don't know if I can pay that much for a centre outside of that's not a Ford, aka Lucas.
Well, again, it's why Marky Mark's better.
That's why, If it's not Herbie, I can't justify the price.
And either McInnes or Fanua Blake, are you considering?
I think AFB's definitely roared back into the conversation again. But again, I'm just.
And you can't have a Max King situation with him because obviously he's not eligible for Origin. So that's the danger if you went McInnes. Could be Max King 2.0 next Origin.
Yeah. It's not the time to go into the unknown.
Oh, tell me about it. Warriors v the Raiders will round out our round 12, and the Warriors, well, some surprises perhaps in the forwards. I thought maybe Kurt Capewell would come into the pack just with. I mean, he was probably unlucky to miss Origin, to be fair.
Very unlucky. He's had a career revival.
Yeah, he's been playing well. But I think Webster just likes his defence in the centres.
Yep.
I think that's why he's keeping him there. And so if you're a Halasima owner or a Aaron Clark owner...
You're jumping up and down.
You're jumping up and down. Even me that have stuck by Valmonga with other fires to put out.
You stamping your feet?
Well, he got the HIA, so he went the other way. So Tavanga gets a HIA, comes back on, plays more minutes. Valmonga gets a HIA and he plays 20 less minutes than normal. So it was a bit of a nightmare for me. But this week, it all could be a full 180 turn, right? He could end up being the guy that gets 40 plus. So we'll see. But that pack's pretty light on, and I think the Raiders are going to target that. Yeah. So Tarpanave, Horsburgh, Hosking, Smithies should all have the potential. Tom Starr.
I think at this point, then it's hypocritical coming from me because I tried to resist it for weeks. I think if you don't have Aaron Clark now, I think it's pretty sickening not having him in your team.
It's I mean, if that guy...
he's playing too well.
You've really got to get out of the mindset of what he used to cost.
Yeah.
Because if he just costs that all year, you just go and get him. And we're going to see that with Keon next week. People are just going to go and get him. They're not going to worry about, I could have got him cheaper, whenever. But with Clark, because we've never seen him play at this level before, and he's been around the NRL long enough, but Webster obviously saw something in him that the Titans' multiple coaches didn't see. They just thought, he's a 35-minute player. Whereas he saw the endurance.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's changed his fantasy outlook tremendously. I want to ask you about Jamal Fogarty for the Raiders because I'm a little bit worried. Is there a little bit of head noise just with all the off-field stuff?
I don't think so. I think
those goal kicks. He doesn't miss.
That's what I mean. But he missed all those kicks and he still got a 50.
I know, but he should be nailed.
I know, but mate, I'd be with you if we're talking now and he got like a 35 or he's still got a 50.
I know. I'm just worried.
Nah. Too many fires, Paulie.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying, as a Fogarty owner now, like I need him at his absolute premium.
Again, but you are valid in saying this is a danger game for him because I think Warriors will. They'll go
over there. Yep. It's going to be.
Well, they're a different team over there.
It's a 6 p.m. game.
Yeah.
In New Zealand.
They'll be absolutely. It'll be cookie stamp your feet territory. That's what it'll be.
I suppose the one team that's used to that sort of weather is Canberra.
Yeah.
Because they obviously it's not as wet in Canberra as it can get.
Well, it'll be
but the temperatures.
And it's also a clash of styles too. Like you've got this real high tempo offense with Canberra, and then you've got the real like.
Well, the game could follow a very similar script to the Dolphins.
Webster's got them playing just so hard for each other.
Yeah, that Warriors-Dolphins game, we could see it play out almost identically, where the Warriors are leading all the way throughout, and the Raiders only break through in the last 10, but they might run over them.
Shout out to I think a lot of people, even Scotty Baldwin was like, it's a shame. And again, I'm going to rat him out a bit here, but literally as we were talking during that game, the Dolphins game, he goes, who's a good shout out next week? James Fisher-Harris. Literally a second after he said that.
When it happened.
Head high.
Yeah, it's such a good game.
He would have been a great pickup this week.
And Luke Metcalf owners, this could be a good game for him.
Well, again,
at home.
I put my hand up. I doubted it. He's leading Dally M. He's killing it.
Yeah, we all did. I mean, it took him a month just to get going. It's Keanu Kinney all over again.
He's playing so well.
Let's get to some more questions, shall we? This is a good one too.
Is it? I can feel it.
Well, can you loop this week?
I love it.
You sure can, and I will be. So the thing with looping this week is that you only count your starting positions. So the key thing will be, Yongi's a great example. I don't have a lot of wing fullbacks. Yongi's going to sit probably my third interchange, I'd say. Second game up, if it just doesn't work out, that's when I can look at, well, I've got Namonga Nituwaze.
Yep.
Right? Instead of playing him in the centres, I can just move him back to the bench, but put him above.
Yep.
And then that's when I could look at a guy like Iro as a mid-round trade, bring in an Iro to play centre, and then I get Namonga Nituwaze score as the winger.
Yeah, like it.
Fullback. So that's one way. You could also do it with your hookers. Some people might have Tavanga and Riley Smith.
Yep.
And if you're lucky enough to have a third hooker, which this is where it might not work because you've got to have a non-playing reserve actually in those spots.
Yeah.
Not in reserve, but just a non-player. People might think, you know what, I'll hold Dylan Egan this week, purely so you can use him as the red dot in the second row.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that too.
And then you can just move on the bench, whoever's higher, edge is higher, is going to get the points. So there's a lot of options. When you own guys like Cleary and Haas and May, well, Cleary not as much because his team plays, so Cleary will get locked out.
Yeah.
But Haas and May, there's no lockout.
Yeah, no lockout.
So you can just switch them around on your bench depending on how they go. You can even go as far occasionally to have two players on the bench.
Yeah.
Know what they both score before you work out which, if you've got dual position red dots, which guy you want to take. That actually happened to me last week, where I knew between Iongi and Valmonga who got more points, so you can do it.
Yeah, I like it.
Jezza FV, who should I replace for Egan? Like I said, I said maybe you have to hold.
He's returning some videotapes as well. I love it. The old Patrick Bayman. Who should I replace for Egan? Well, again, probably.
At the price.
Is he saying edge for edge?
Well, that's what I'm wondering at that price. Because for me, I'm still trying to keep to the guns and cheapy motto, but
he can't get to your man, can he? Type Paul.
Yeah, well, that's a nice edge swap.
But it's probably, I think, 100k difference, right?
691.
Yeah, okay.
Egan dropped back under.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Did he?
I think he did. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it just depends if you need an edge urgently, because Hosking's price will be reasonable. You might need a little bit of cash, but hopefully you've got some bank. So
let us know, Jezza.
599 versus 587. So you only need 12k to make that work, and most people usually have 12.
There you go, Jezza.
And I think Hosking could get a 70 this week. NT, which Roosters player plays mid over Origin, which players may come in? Well, they've named the team. So the Roosters team at the moment, it's not a usual one. So Makahesi, Makatoa, Celesi, Foketi are the two props, and then Egan Butcher's coming into the second row, and then obviously you said Nap.
Yeah, and that's the wild card there, because I wouldn't be surprised if he starts.
I just think it's Roosters roulette, trying to pick which of those guys is going to go well.
Stay away, NT. It's too volatile, NT.
It's too volatile. Dom Griffin, good to see you. Dom, afternoon lads. Is AFB a bit trappy? Quite a few tries. Well, that's AFB though. Yeah. That's the way he gets his scores. He's always been a high try scorer for a prop. It really comes down to how you like to play fantasy.
Yep.
If you're a guy like AFB, right? Are you looking for the upside and riding a bit of a roller coaster? Or do you just want safe as houses? I know I'm going to get 50 every week.
Well, Griffo's thinking the same way I am, right? He's like, well, you know, he's worried about the week before, and then he's come good again. Again, I think he's still probably managing a bit of an injury, but the problem is his upside's just too great, right?
Well, he had to play big minutes.
Yes, that's right.
Because two backs went down.
Yes.
And so two of their players, like Atkinson, who was a back to begin with.
And Talakai.
Talakai was a back to begin with. They both play in the middle nowadays, off the bench. Yeah. Just small minutes, but that's where they play. So obviously when they couldn't spell the likes of McInnes and AFB, those guys got big minutes. The thing with the averages between Fanua Blake, 55, and McInnes 54.5. But when you watch the games, AFB gets 80s, right? Whereas McInnes is more likely just steady as she
And also,
goes.
too, Griffo, what Paulie said on the show last week, what did we say in the preview was going to be a big factor? No Hazelton.
Well, that's the other thing with the Sharks, because he lays the platform.
Yeah.
He's their glue guy, like Oliero is.
So how long? I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but how long is he out
that's
for?
a good question.
Because that'll help Griffo because again he might, if he's back next week.
At the moment, AFB is stepping up, right? Because it's like, well, without him, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So that's probably the one that you need to really know, and it's just stern.
Yeah, there you go. That could be anything. So, mate, Griff, maybe I know this is a boring answer, but it's a bit of both, to be honest.
It's who you like. If you love watching AFB play, I love this.
The way. So
I'd go AFB.
Yeah. The way I know Griff and the way he plays, I'd do it, Griff. Yeah. Because you play on the edge and you play on the win. So I reckon go for it, bud.
Jeremy Worth, I need a half or mid for 5.25. Well, Jazz Tavanga, but you might already have him.
Yeah.
So we should look at more than just Jazz. And the thing of it is, at the moment, is a lot of these guys, they've been going so well, especially at mid. They've already gone up in price.
Mids it's just not there.
So Jack Williams is still underpriced, but I'm worried about that's not a great future for with the Eels buy draw.
I would have said someone like a Bullimore. The problem is that there's more middles coming back now.
I think either Morgan Smithies or Harry Hayes.
Tom Leaks, man.
Yeah, depending on how you play the game, I think either one of those. Probably Smithies is more just your solid stick by, but I think Hayes obviously moving to edge. I think he's got a bit of upside to him, and then he can't quite get Burton because Burton's 5.49.
Yeah, other than that, it's just a barren wasteland. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, you can't do it.
What weeks?
You can't.
Nah.
So it's a wasteland in the halves.
Yeah.
So it's a mid for
So mid Jeremy.
Darth Trader. There you go, Lukey. What's your thoughts?
I want to know who this is. I love that name.
Over the Origin period.
I love that name, man.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. Yeah, it's very spicy, but again, I just
can't do it.
I don't think he's doing enough yet, Darth. To be honest. Nah. Unless he's just scoring 2 tries a game. He's only averaging about 30 something, isn't he?
He's still, because he's only just come in since our last update, so he's not even listed as a half.
And his best game was against Manly, and he scored a try, didn't he?
Yeah. Look, he'll have to do more, but it's not his style. He's a converted.
I reckon he's a look next year, Daft, to be honest.
Yeah.
I love that name.
Yeah. Terry Evans is another great name. Near Corday bottomed out enough to be an option.
Well, I talked about him on the weekend. I think he's a worker. The only thing with him is you've got to worry about Terry is that he gets a lot of HIAs. He plays so hard.
I can't do it. Look, he obviously got the big score. He got the try.
He got the try. Right? He should have scored 2.
He's one of those guys, Terry, that he'll have a couple of good games, but then he'll really go low, and it's a tough watch when he gets an 80.
And also too, Terry, he's Webster's go and fix it guy. So what happens is something happens in the game, he's the first guy that gets moved.
He's not, like, if you look at some of these scores, like 19 against the Knights, 24 Cowboys, Dragons, 22, like, it's just, that 57 is the outlier. It's not like a guy like a Reece Walsh who goes up and down. He's really...
That's all.
Probably only have a couple of good scores and then go back to the normal.
Unfortunately, Terry.
You never know when to... you never know when it's going to end.
Yeah.
Ruben, good to see you, Ruben. Luke, should I switch Hosking as captain? Should I switch him for Freddie?
Oh, yeah.
Ruben, I think he was in the office.
Yeah, that's right. These are the boys here. Because we were talking about Terrell May making Origin, because he has Terrell May.
And you told him...
I said he won't make Origin.
He won't make it. So he was right.
There you go. Well, he's got Hosking. I'm trying to remember his team. His team's a little bit outrageous. So I'm thinking...
Hosking as captain's pretty out there.
Yeah, it's out there.
If his team...
High upside.
If his team doesn't have a Tarpanay or an Aaron Clark... I mean, Ruben, just try and get Aaron Clark this week, and then you can just captain him.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Daniel Dimitrevsky, afternoon lads, thoughts Graz to KPP and White to Radley as Smokey. Well, I like the first part. I don't hate the Radley. I feel like Radley could. I don't know. I feel like Daniel, you might be onto something here, but I'd hate to put it out in the universe.
I like the first part. The second part, however, I don't.
I just feel like it's.
Is there someone else you could go to?
There's something about Radley over this Origin period. I feel like he could go on a bit of a tear.
Oh, okay. So
I know it sounds crazy. Like we don't have the evidence to back it up.
I think I'm almost like it's a mirror for me. Like you just said in that rant about Niakura.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's the same problem.
Because the thing you got to remember, Daniel, is ever since he got all those sin bins and suspensions, the whole way he plays the game's changed. So really, he's not getting the same stats because he can't throw himself at the line like he used to defensively.
Well, it's like, and also too, like Leake said as well. Like, does Watson being out help him though?
Yeah, look, he could play 80. Let's see what the predictor has for him because he definitely could play 80 minutes. And I was eyeing off Radley probably about a month ago for this period. I was like, well, Radley might get an uptick. Like, what's he going to be priced at? How's he been going? 48 to make 18K. I mean, it's not the worst.
Yeah.
It's definitely a smoky. He's called it a smoky. It's a smoky.
Yeah.
We probably, when you look at price, when you look at guys that are going to make money, you look at like a Sam Roney. I mean, it's not going to work out because he's only there a week. But Patia, like you probably would rather. Even Halasima's still a buy. The way he's been going, that's probably where I'd spend my money. Liam Henry. What about Henry?
Daniel might have just a feeling like you do. So if you feel like he's going to go on a tear,
if you were going to take
go for it.
If I was doing out of the box player,
it'd be him.
I'd go Liam Henry.
Okay.
At the same price.
Okay.
I feel like if that's one where it's just like, whoa, I didn't see that coming.
I'd probably go with Daniels.
Yeah.
Go Radley.
Robert M. Luke, should I bring in Hines to my team in the halves, and should I replace Ponga with Teddy?
Well, what do you think?
This is like the opposite to the last question, where the second half we love. But I don't think you need to run out and get Hines. And what's the money situation? Is Robert just dining in cash?
Robert must be just hoarding it all, waiting for a rainy day.
Usually when we get a question like Ponga to Teddy, current Ponga, I mean, usually Ponga's up there with Teddy in price.
Yeah, but wait till he puts a Queensland jersey on, he looks amazing.
Well, sure, but you're going to lose a lot of money going Ponga to Teddy. So usually you're trying to find usually the question is whatever cheapie will go with him. I don't know, might need a half. I think Katoa is the number one.
Yeah, I'd go Katoa over Hines, buddy. But that's just me.
Even Burton, I'd probably go.
No, Katoa. I think what we said at the start of the show, Katoa.
If he couldn't afford, I think Burton would at that price would be better than Hines at his price.
And Teddy, Teddy just speaks for himself. But again, like Paulie said, just don't bring him in this week expecting he's going to blaze it because.
Just be happy.
Yeah.
Just be happy you own Teddy.
For the next following weeks.
Yeah, and the buyer's schedule's kind and he doesn't look like he's going to play.
100%.
Last question. Aaron.
Oh,
Aaron's
look at that.
Back, looking sharp as Ponting's pull shot. I'm looking ahead to the Raiders game. Can we expect a big result for the Green Machine in New Zealand?
Did she know?
I think Jack Abraham must have tipped her off.
Well, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, there was a...
You're wearing Ricky's wardrobe.
Yeah, because Channel 10, I don't know what happened. Maybe he didn't fit in them, so I ended up with his pants.
Oh, there you go. So we're looking good.
Yeah.
He knows how sharp he looks. So, well, Aaron obviously did. So you're looking great. Raiders are just cooking at the moment, right?
Especially the Big Red. You and I would have thought he was a home run hit, right?
Yeah, well,
to make.
Yeah, like Scotty and Russell always say, wrong again. I had that wrong.
But how could you pick that?
Yeah,
I mean, if we're picking our team, and Billy, we haven't really got any tape on Billy where he goes left field.
Yeah.
Well, usually he's pretty reliable.
Well, he put Cobbo on the bench.
But even that, I mean, back in the day, Queenslanders used to have Mark Coyne on the bench.
Well, I'm just saying, that's still paid off.
But this is left field.
Yeah, Aaron, I think...
Not even in the 20.
Aaron, I think that game's going to be amazing. But I can't pick it. So...
Very good. All right, Luke, thank you so much.
Mate, looking
did a
amazing.
great job. Thank you. And, of course, we'll have plenty of fantasy content all week long. Guess who's coming back for dinner, as they say in the...
Would his initials be ML?
Maybe.
Or DL?
Yeah,
something ends with L.
The mystery.
Maybe something ends with L. I'm trying to get the suspense going here.
Well.
Okay.
It is Daniel Long. He's coming in. He's on fire. Is he top 1,000 now? I'm pretty sure he's just cracked the top 1,000. We had a lot of buy carnage. We had a lot of things planned. He can come in and resurrect it. You're talking about like a pimp my ride, a pimp my team. Like he's going to resurrect all these injuries, all these suspensions, and anyway, he's going to give plenty of advice to everyone out there on their team. So stay tuned, NRL.com and on the app for that, and we'll be back next week. If you're listening to the podcast next time, why don't you join us live, 4 p.m. every Tuesday, and as you can see from this show, we're just getting more and more questions every week, so more and more to answer. We're happy to do that for you, and you'll get read out on the show. So anyway, we shall see you next week. It's bye for now.